Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. It is Friday, July 22nd, 2011. And we got a short lesson today, but I think an important one. Mark chapter 2, verse 18. Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. And people came and said to him, "Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "Can the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast in that day." Interesting. In Ecclesiastes, I believe it's chapter 3, it says there's a time for everything. Matter of fact, I don't do this very often, but I am going to go ahead and go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3 right now, and so bear with me. Hopefully I can find it quickly. I can't pause this thing or else I have to record the whole thing again. So here we go, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Verse 1, "For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to tear, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace." It's important to recognize what's going on in your life and respond appropriately. And John's disciples and the Pharisees' disciples didn't recognize what was going on. So they were continuing with their tradition of fasting 2 days a week, which was never commanded. Fasting is something to be done when you're broken about your sin, or in times of sadness or sorrow. Somebody in your life has died or something like that. But in times of celebration, we don't fast, we feast. There is a time for everything. So look at your life right now. And it's possible that you're not reacting correctly to what's going on. If things in your life are generally good, praise God, glorify Him, celebrate, and rejoice. But if it's a time where perhaps you're undergoing some trials or things like that, don't be celebrating. Don't be rejoicing. You can rejoice in the goodness of God, but that would be a time to fast. In other words, recognize what's going on, what God's trying to do, and respond accordingly. Jesus says, look, you don't fast at a wedding. And right now, the bridegroom is with the servants, with the attendants. He's referring to himself as the bridegroom. He says there's going to come a day when the bridegroom's not going to be here. That's the time to fast. It's not now. I know in my life right now, it's not the time to fast. Too many good things are happening. But for the 4 years prior to this, oh yeah, plenty of time to fast. So just consider what's going on in your life and respond accordingly. It's important. Sometimes people think God doesn't care about little stuff. He does. He cares how you respond to the things going on in your life. Maybe you kind of have a negative attitude and woe is me, and that's the way the Pharisees were and some of John's disciples when things are going good. You're kind of like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Remember? Oh no, it's just such a blah blah day. Maybe it's a sunny day. So rejoice in that. Just respond accordingly to whatever's going on in your life. All right? That's the point there today. Interesting point. The Bible's really interesting sometimes and very practical, don't you think? Come back tomorrow. Got a little deeper issue we got to deal with tomorrow on the next edition of Take 5.